thanks everybody for joining us, whatever time of the day it may be, wherever you are. Over the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all aspects of teaching English abroad, including job markets, why there are so many jobs, what are the jobs actually like. We'll talk about TEFL certification, so you don't need to be an experienced teacher to do this, but you can take a TEFL class to get the qualification and training that you need. We'll talk a little bit about who we are at International TEFL Academy and how we can help you realize your goals and dreams of making 2018 the year that you go abroad and have a fantastic experience teaching English abroad. My name is John. I'm an advisor here. I've been with the team since 2010. I was lucky. I grew up overseas in Egypt, so I was able to live and work once I became an adult overseas from a young age. And I've been in the fields of international travel, education, journalism, and TEFL for basically my entire career. So very thrilled to be with everybody and to introduce my old friend and colleague, Ian Davis.
Hey everybody, my name is Ian. I'm an advisor here. I've been working in the world of TEFL since, let's see, when did I start doing this? 2008. So it's been about 9 years now. I'm from the great state of Michigan, America's High Five. I've had a chance to travel and work in about 25 different countries around the world. And I'm super excited to be here. And last but not least, our colleague, Jessie.
All right, I'm Jessie. I am from Chicago, studied journalism at the University of Iowa. Maybe most importantly, I'm an ITA graduate. I took the online class here and taught English abroad in South Korea for a couple of years and hopped over to continue teaching in Vietnam. And now I've been a part of the team here at International TEFL Academy for about 3.5 years, advising, helping people kind of realize their dreams of going abroad, answering questions, and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, really glad to be here. I'm going to be kind of manning the questions box, so type away any questions. I'll make sure to give you the appropriate resources and help you out, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end to throw some questions at Ian and John as well. So yeah, let's get going.
Cool, and as I mentioned earlier, our friendly little control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, this is where you're going to be able to type in questions throughout the webcast. Jessie, she's a pretty fast typer, so she'll try to get to all of your questions throughout, but we're gonna cover a lot today, and chances are if you have a question about visas or a question about a region of the world, a TEFL certification or practicum or whatever it may be, we're going to talk about all of that stuff, okay? And so we will definitely get to some of that later. Some of your questions, if they're super intricate or need a detailed answer, she's probably just going to tell you that you need to speak with an advisor, which is a person who sent you the invitation to attend tonight, which is definitely your best interest. And all of these questions, and including and the webcast itself, are going to get recorded, okay? So if you got to leave early, if you got to go make dinner, if your kids or your dogs are being crazy or whatever it may be, don't sweat it. You're going to get a recorded version of this webcast sent to you afterwards.
Awesome. And so if you haven't yet, absolutely feel free to connect with us on social media. We are constantly publishing really, really fantastic alumni testimonials, Q&As, articles, fact sheets, everything you could imagine on our Facebook page. I'll also throw the Facebook and the Instagram link into the chat box here so you can kind of quickly add us on there. Our Instagram, we are literally every day just publishing fun facts, info, alumni stories. You'll kind of get a good view of what our alumni are doing all over the world, what we're doing in our office here in Chicago. So yeah, add us if you can, and yeah, learn a lot. And we will also, worth noting, $100 at the end, we will do a raffle. So add us, maybe you get $100, so snap.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, but you have to like us on the social media channels to be counted in the raffle. All right, so this is a quick rundown of what we'll be covering today. We'll be talking about who we are at International TEFL Academy. We'll be discussing international job markets, what it's like to be a teacher, what it entails. We'll talk about different countries and regions, so hiring requirements and visas and salaries and all the nuts and bolts. We'll be talking about TEFL certification course options. So how can you get the training and qualification that you need to actually go abroad and get a job as a professional English teacher, even if you don't have any prior teaching experience or a degree in education. Hopefully at the end we'll have some time for some Q&As. Again, your advisor is going to be a fantastic resource along with the ITA website, which has literally hundreds of articles, country profiles, and other fantastic resources for you to tap into. All right.
So, yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so here at the International TEFL Academy, all of our staff have lived, worked, traveled abroad extensively. We have about 20 advisors on staff, plus our student affairs department. So these are people who work with enrolled students and provide one-on-one job placement assistance and job search guidance to all of our students and graduates. We also have several dozen professors on staff. They've all lived and traveled abroad as well. They all possess advanced degrees, master's degrees, PhDs in teaching English as a foreign language, linguistics, and related fields. And basically everybody on the team here is passionate about living, traveling, and teaching English overseas. We've all had tremendous experiences, and we want to help all of you enjoy that same life-changing experience of living, traveling, and teaching English abroad.
Right, and what we do here is we offer professional training courses for TEFL, which is an acronym that stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. You may have heard TESOL as well, which is Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. It's kind of like tomato, they're interchangeable acronyms, but we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about not only what TEFL means, but what the certification is all about. And all of our courses, whether you take our really popular online class or you come take our class in Chicago or another one of our on-site locations, all of our courses are fully accredited and go beyond international standards for TEFL certification. Those are the hiring standards that employers abroad are looking for. We're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about this later in the presentation. So yeah, stick around.
Yeah, that's right. And we're based in Chicago. We, again, as you mentioned, we have classes all over the world. I'd say, hey, if you're looking to take an in-person TEFL class before you go overseas, Chicago is definitely the place to do it. Fantastic city. All of our staff is there. We're located right in the heart of the North Side, just by Wrigley Field and Lake Michigan. It's really hard to beat. All of our classes incorporate live practice teaching, which is critical. This includes the online class. So whatever class you take, you're going to be getting that hands-on experience working with actual ESL students. And another great aspect about getting TEFL certified is you're going to meet and interact and network, no matter what class you take, with loads of other people like yourself and other ITA graduates who are also teaching English abroad in literally 80 countries. So as soon as you enroll in your class, whatever it is, you'll be able to tap into our exclusive networks on Facebook and elsewhere to really become a member of that international community of travelers and teachers.
Right, and before we get started with everyone here, we wanted to do a quick survey of all of you tuning in, and we want to know, do you know anyone who has taught English abroad? So Jesse's going to go ahead and launch this poll here. Feel free to click your answer in there. Let's see, Jesse, you taught in South Korea first, right? Did you know anyone teaching abroad before you made the, just for you guys also, side note for ladies and gentlemen at home, Jessie is actually an alumni of International TEFL Academy before she came to work for us. That makes her pretty cool. But did you know anyone before you signed up and then went to South Korea?
Gosh, I did not know anybody. I remember telling all my family and friends, and they thought this was the craziest thing ever. And then ultimately, actually met a lot of people through our alumni Facebook groups, met a lot of friends once I got there on Facebook. So yeah, I thought I was kind of a trailblazer, but you know, I feel like now it's a little bit more common. So yeah, you might be the first one in your group of friends to go do this, and they're all going to ask you how you did it. So get ready for that.
Yeah, we'll see what they have to say.
Cool. We've got 83%, so we might have some stragglers here, but let's see what we got. Cool. 60-40. I feel like we've been kind of seeing this lately. I feel like more and more it's kind of becoming more 50-50, and I feel like you'll see what happens. But ultimately, yeah, cool. You might be the first one in your friends group to teach abroad, and there you go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Someone's got to lead the way. Maybe later on they'll look to you for advice.
Yeah, you know, and I think that question always comes up, you know, especially for people who don't know people who've done this. Hey, who actually goes and does this? I've seen it online. I've heard about it. People teaching in China and Spain, Japan, and all these cool places. But can I actually do this, especially if you don't have prior teaching experience or maybe even a college degree? And the answer is yes. We train about 5,000 people a year to teach English abroad at ITA. Our graduates range in age from 18 years old up to folks in their 60s and 70s. Certainly a lot of people like to do this in their 20s before they sort of settle down into a career or a family. Some people actually make this their career. So this is, also an option. We get people in their 30s, 40s, 50s looking to escape the corporate grind and get out and see the world. People coming in and out of institutions like the military and the Peace Corps, retired teachers. So really, people from all walks of life can go and do this, and that includes you.
Yeah, so some of you may be asking, what are the benefits of potentially teaching English abroad? So let's go through some of these here. And these are just to name a few. Number one, it's a realistic and affordable way to travel the world. It's a situation where you're not just constantly paying to be someplace, you're actually living there. You have a job, you're making money, you're living life as a local. And so you're not rushed. You get to really just experience the country and the culture. And a lot of us has traveled on short trips, backpacking 2 weeks here and there. And that's a fantastic way to dip in and dip out. But if you really kind of want to live someplace, you got to have a job, and teaching English is a great way to do it. Learning a new language is also a really great benefit as well. A lot of our alumni come to us, and that's one of their primary objectives, is to either learn a new language or perfect their language skills. A lot of people study languages in college and they want to go immerse themselves, and so this is a great way to do it. And as Jesse mentioned, meeting new friends, whether it's through our alumni network or just the social network that you build for meeting other expats while teaching abroad. It's a great way to meet a lot of like-minded people. And boosting your resume. This is a really big one, especially for those who are just now starting to enter the workforce. A lot of you may be recent college graduates or graduating soon, and you're looking to add something that's going to make you kind of stand out from the pack. And I will tell you, having international work experience on your resume is worth its weight in gold. It really is fantastic. And then last but not least, great financial benefits. I mean, it's no secret there's a lot of places in the world where you can go and do very well financially as an English teacher. And, we're going to get into this a little bit later in the presentation on, what countries kind of check this box, but it's realistic to save, on a monthly basis, a couple $100 a month to up to over $1,000 a month. So some of you that maybe have student loans, or maybe just looking to put aside a little bit of money to travel the world, you can do that while being an English teacher. And in some countries, you can get your airfare paid for. You can get paid vacation. You can get housing paid for, health insurance, all of that stuff. And so it's not just a way to go spend a year just kind of doing whatever. It's a great way to go advance your professional development, have some great prospects on the horizon, but also do well for yourself.
Yeah, and I think some people wonder, why are there so many opportunities to teach abroad, and why are there so many people learning English around the world? And there are 1.7 billion people learning English. English is really, in sort of the interconnected world of the 21st century, English is really the world's language in terms of commerce, culture, travel, business, education. The internet is something like 75% in English. People who want to do business with people from other countries, it's almost always conducted in English. The bottom line is, for literally billions of people across the globe, learning English is a way to enhance their professional and educational opportunities. So it's really about making a difference in their own lives and the lives of their families as well.
Yeah, and as John mentioned, English is the international language of business, right? And so it is a necessary skill in order for you to communicate on the global stage. And so here's a good example. An auto parts store needs to order parts from their German counterparts. And so when they get on the phone to make that call, the associate in Germany and the associate in Japan, the language that they're using to communicate with each other, more oftentimes than not, is going to be English, right? Because that is the international language of business.
That's right, or sports. I was watching a soccer match the other day. People from all different countries, Brazil and Argentina and Spain, all playing. They all speak English. So yeah, no matter what field it is, English is really the international language. And here are just some numbers to put things in perspective. According to the British Council, there are 1.7 billion people learning and using English worldwide. This translates into hundreds of thousands of job opportunities for native and fluent speakers to teach English in foreign countries. If you drill down a little bit farther and look at individual cities in, let's say, Europe or South America, places like Rome, Buenos Aires, Madrid, Prague, and so forth. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of language schools in each of those cities. And each of these cities employs anywhere from 10 to 50 teachers typically, and they're looking for TEFL certified native and fluent speakers. So that means in any given city, whether it's Madrid or Rome or what have you, there are going to be 3,000 to 5,000 people teaching English. And if you look at the really big cities in Asia, places like Tokyo, Seoul, Shanghai, Bangkok, there are 10, 15, 20,000 foreigners teaching English in those cities. So really enormous amount of opportunities to teach English around the globe.
That's right. And a lot of you may be asking, well, are there any jobs left if it's such a big thing? The answer is yeah. And the nature of this industry, the nature of teaching English, it's pretty transient. I mean, people are always coming and going, either spending a year abroad and returning to go to grad school, or maybe spending a year in one location and then moving on to the next. And so every year, there's about a 50% annual turnover rate. That means a school is likely to lose about half of their teachers every year. And so there's always new opportunities out there. So for those of you at home who are looking to enter this workplace and enter the opportunity of teaching abroad, it's great because there's tons of jobs all over the world waiting for you.
That's right. And we've done a lot of research on this, and we lots of studies and so forth. We just saw an article published by Forbes magazine the other day that mentioned that English as a foreign language in Asia is something like a $50 billion business or industry or field. So again, it's just hard to state how large and how important the field of teaching English really is in the global scheme of things.
Yeah, so you may be asking yourself, who will I be teaching? You can help shape the lives of children as young as kindergarten and pre-K, up to helping adults and business professionals achieve their next level of English proficiency, and pretty much everything in between.
That's right, and there are all sorts of different schools where you can teach and different types of students. I would say the vast majority of opportunities teaching English abroad are going to be in private language schools and centers. These are typically private enterprises. They specialize in language training. Very often they're catering primarily to adults, people in business, tourism, government officials, university students, and so forth. That said, a lot of them also provide lessons to young learners. In some countries like France, Spain, South Korea, Japan, just to name a few, there are opportunities to teach in what we consider public schools in the US, so high schools, grade schools, and so forth. Private tutoring, this is huge all over the globe. And in fact, a lot of English teachers, this is what they do either part-time to supplement their income, or they do it full-time. And then teaching English online, this is really the fastest growing part of the field, and it provides a lot of flexibility. You can teach English to basically anybody, any in the world, from any place in the world. So you can do it at home before you go abroad, start making money and getting experience. You can do it to supplement your income while you're overseas. And some people even do this full time. So another great option, we have a really fantastic resource on our website specifically about teaching English online. So go check it out.
Yeah, so what will my day look like, right? So once you're abroad teaching English, this is a pretty typical average, overview. Now, everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different, but this is, in general, is pretty accurate. It's normal to teach about 4 to 5 classes per day, with classes ranging from anywhere from 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and that kind of shapes out to working about anywhere between 20 to 25 hours of teaching time per week. Okay, now those are contact hours. Those are hours in front of the classroom actually teaching. You're also going to need to factor in additional time doing prep work and grading. Obviously with all jobs, you're going to do a little bit more work on the front end when you first start than when you kind of settled into a routine. So it is a full-time job. It's not going to be the 40, 50, 60 hour a week grind that a lot of us are used to here in the US. There's definitely going to be ample time for you to explore your new city, go out and enjoy some time with coworkers and travel. But yeah, it's a real job.
Yeah, and we get this question all the time. People are wondering, hey, if I move to Madrid or Tokyo or wherever, how am I going to find a place to live, especially if I don't speak the local language? I believe Ian mentioned earlier, there are countries and places and schools that do provide housing to their teachers. This is most common in countries like, let's say, South Korea. That said, in most cases, in most countries, you will be basically responsible for renting your own place. The good news is, hey, there are loads of English language resources almost anywhere that you're going to teach. Lots of resources online. In many cases, your school, even if they don't provide housing, will provide assistance and guidance to help you find a place. And then word of mouth is huge. There are thousands of people teaching English in these places. People are coming and going. You're always running into people who are looking for roommates or somebody to share a flat with, and so forth. So don't fret, you won't be going homeless. I recommend that you talk to your advisor about how things are going to work in specific countries that you're interested in teaching in.
Yeah, so why does anyone want me to teach them English, right? For some of you that have questions about you and your ability not to worry, employers want you because you are the model, and your students will want to talk like you, sound like you, and have your accent. You are going to bring English into context along with your culture and your enthusiasm, okay? Like, people know they identify language with individuals, and you are representing not just your country, but culture as a whole. And if you don't speak a foreign language, don't worry. This is easily one of the most common questions we get. How much Spanish do I need to know? I don't speak any Cantonese. Can I go still teach in parts of China? Absolutely, right? The reality is the schools abroad are hiring you based on your fluency in the English language, okay? And in your classroom, when you're actually teaching, you will only be using English 100% of the time. It's the full immersion method, okay? Even if you were completely fluent, bilingual in the local language, the director of your language school will be very adamant that you only speak English, because that's the whole reason they're looking to bring you over and have you work there, right? Language immersion is the best way to acquire a language, and that's why also on the other side of that coin, your Spanish proficiency, your Cantonese proficiency, whatever it may be, is going to improve exponentially within that first month of you being there, because you are immersed in the language around you. Now, obviously, it doesn't hurt to try to learn some pleasantries to get around town, hello, goodbye, etc., like that. But in terms of like your job, don't stress about it too much. You're being hired because of your English skills.
That's right. And as an English teacher, you're going to be teaching the basic skills of language acquisition, speaking, reading, writing, grammar, vocabulary, and so forth. Again, as Ian mentioned, people need and want to hold conversations in English in the real world. So that means being able to speak and listen to English at its natural speed. And as a native or fluent speaker, you'll be able to expose your students to how English is actually used in the real world, not just in a textbook or on a cassette tape or something.
Yeah, and this is what you're going to learn in your TEFL class, and how you're going to kind of bring English into context for your students. You're going to learn the key cornerstone methodologies involved in teaching language acquisition. So you're going to learn how to create lesson plans, administer tests and quizzes. You're going to learn classroom management skills, how to use visual aids, and actually assess the student's language ability, so you know how to approach their education, and also error correction. That's really, really important. You want to make sure that when somebody makes a mistake in your classroom, you are correcting them in a way that not only makes them understand the mistake they've made, but also encourages them to continue to participate in the class. And so this is all going to be incorporated in your TEFL certification course.
Great. So now we know a little bit about what it's like to be an English teacher, what it entails, and so forth. But I think, people want to know, hey, where can I teach? Can I teach English in Spain or Costa Rica? What about Thailand? What about Japan? What about someplace like Czech Republic in the heart of Europe? And the good news is, hey, even if you don't have prior teaching experience or even a college degree, with a TEFL certification, you're going to have lots of options. So we're going to delve into that in just a moment in terms of specific regions and countries. But first, let's take another poll question. Where do you want to teach English abroad? So Jesse's going to throw up the poll. Europe, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, anywhere, not sure. Jesse, if you could get on a plane tomorrow and go anywhere in the world, maybe other than Iceland, where would you go to teach English?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going back to Iceland to freeze my butt off, but I'm thinking probably Prague, maybe. I loved Asia. I had a fantastic time, but curious to kind of maybe explore and experience living, somewhere in Europe. The food's amazing. It's very affordable for a European city. Their beer is basically free for anyone who's interested in that. So yeah, it's I would go with that. What about you, Ian?
I'm a big fan of Prague. I'm also a big fan of being warm though, so I might focus my attention someplace like Nicaragua, maybe Costa Rica, and maybe, even Southeast Asia. I really love my time over there. It's a beautiful part of the world, and so I'm feeling the warmth right now.
There you go. And look at our results here. This is always cool. I think our favorite thing to see on here is anywhere not sure. It's awesome if you are completely wide open to this and just kind of considering other options. You'll probably find some countries as these guys are going through the regions of, like I never really even considered going there. So yeah, good to see this. And yeah, take it away, guys.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for everyone to know, like, you don't have to make your decision right away. I mean, we all work with students that they're not really sure where they want to go, and they also like maybe have one place in mind, and like 6 months later they're on a plane going someplace totally different. That's normal, okay? And we're going to talk about our job search guidance a little bit later on in the process, but what you guys should know now is that we help you go anywhere in the world. And so if you have like multiple destinations in mind, if you aren't committed to one place necessarily, don't sweat it. We're going to talk about all the cool places that could potentially be a good fit for you. So but back to the slides, here is kind of a basic rundown of the basics of getting a job abroad, right? And so this is what we're going to kind of dive into a little bit here. A lot of these bullet points could definitely have their own individual webcast, especially the visas one. Like, it's a long conversation for certain countries. Like, there's, like, as we mentioned earlier, we've got alumni teaching in about 80 different countries around the world. Every country has different processes and just kind of procedures to know about. And so there are definitely questions that you're going to have that you are going to need to talk with your advisor about. We're going to do our best to kind of talk in generalities tonight, but if we don't get into too much details on the nuances between working on a cultural visa in Prague versus a student visa in Spain, like, that's a good question to ask your advisor. But we're going to talk about interviews, visas, degrees, the different types of jobs, the hiring seasons, money, and finally the different types of contracts.
That's right. And interviews are critical. These are real jobs. You will be applying and interviewing for them. It's important to note that interview procedures are going to vary from country to country, region to region, school to school. There are many places in the world, Western Europe, places like Spain and Italy, for example, where schools recruit and hire locally face-to-face. So if you want to teach English in Rome, you're going to go to Rome. You're going to use all the resources and contacts that we provide. You're going to line up interviews on the spot. And very often you're going to get hired within a couple weeks of interviewing and begin teaching almost immediately, because that's just how schools operate in those countries. In other countries, and this is more common in East Asia, for example, schools interview and hire you in advance. So they can interview you over the phone, by Skype, maybe through a recruiter. You sign a contract, you typically get a visa, and you basically have sort of everything lined up before you get there. Maybe not always housing. Some people like having something lined up in advance. Other people prefer to scope things out face to face in person. Again, talk to your advisor and read the country profiles on our website to learn more about how things work in particular places that you're interested in.
Right, and as I mentioned, visas, long conversation for some countries. Other countries, it's kind of like, oh, this is how it's done. You're like, okay, great. But there's different ways to go about it. Every country is a little bit different. Some places you'll get a work visa, a work permit. That's something that's sponsored by your employer, and it's going to involve you like sending certain documents to the government and getting things processed, and it usually takes a little bit of time. Same thing with the student visa. And so this is obviously something we give you information on, like what documents you need, where you need to send them, where you need to get them, all that stuff. Same thing with like a cultural and volunteer visa, contractor visas. Other parts of the world, you may be working on your tourist visa, doing border crossings and renewals. Some countries, it's a little bit of everything. Costa Rica, you get a federal tax ID number, but you're also on your tourist visa that you have to renew every 90 days. And so as I mentioned, there's nuances country by country that you should definitely talk with your advisor about, and they'll be able to give you the details on kind of what to expect.
Yeah, and degrees, there are going to be some countries, places like South Korea and Japan, for example, where it's basically a legal requirement in 95, 98% of cases that you have a degree in addition to your TEFL certification to get hired and to get a visa. That said, hey, you don't have a degree, there's still more than 50 countries around the world you can teach in virtually every region. So again, look at the resources on our website, talk to your advisor, and you'll definitely be able to find a lot of different options based on whatever your circumstances are.
Right, so remember the type of school slide that we just went through a couple minutes ago. You will want to consider your work environment as well when you're looking into, the situation you want to be in abroad. Would you like to be in a public school setting where you are the English teacher, or a private school where you can be one of maybe 30 English teachers just like you? Also, do you want to help people and make money as a private tutor? That's pretty common as well. Both on the ground, maybe one-on-one with students, or maybe you're picking up private tutoring hours online teaching English. So there's a lot of different types of positions that you can find abroad. Some places it might be mutually exclusive, it might be just one or the other. Some places it's a mix of both, and so an important thing to consider when you're choosing your destination.
That's right. Now, hiring seasons, these are key. There's certain countries and regions of the world where hiring is very cyclical and seasonal. So in Western Europe, for example, there are specific months, very often September, October, and then again in January when schools are really hiring, and then other times of the year when you're just not going to be able to get a job. In other parts of the world, let's say China, there are just so many schools. They're not all operating according to a traditional academic calendar. You can literally get an interview 365 days a year. So the important thing is to do your research, put together a plan, give yourself at least 3 to 6 months to get certified, make your travel arrangements, get your documents, start your job search, and that will put you in perfect position to begin teaching wherever it is when the hiring season occurs.
John, tell them about the money.
The money. Yeah, let's face it. Financial considerations are important for basically all of us, especially if you're looking to undertake a major endeavor like moving halfway around the world. The good news is, hey, with your TEFL certification, you're going to be qualified for good paying jobs virtually anywhere. Now, in some countries, that means you're basically going to be breaking even financially. You're going to be covering all your expenses, having a great time, doing some travel, going out on the weekends. You're probably not putting money in the bank at the end of every month. In other parts of the world, especially East Asia, parts of the Middle East, English teachers are typically saving 30 to 50% of their salary after expenses. So if you need to make and save $500, $1,000 a month to make student loan payments, or you want to save money for travel after your contract, or if you have other financial obligations, you definitely want to look at those options. And we have a ton of great resources on our website that breaks all of this down. So again, check them out. We have a guide to financial guide to teaching English overseas. I highly recommend downloading that, and of course, talking to your advisor as well.
Right, so let's talk about contracts. Are you interested in the pretty typical 10 to 12 month contract, or are you looking for a shorter term stint abroad? Or are you like many of us here that want to spend multiple years in one country, or maybe go to a bunch of different countries over the next couple of years? So contracts are an important thing to discuss with your advisors. As we mentioned, 6 to 12 months is pretty typical for most places. You can find some shorter term ones, but talk with your advisor. And this also kind of plays into like hiring seasons too, will definitely kind of influence the duration of your time or for your contract.
All right, so how do I pick a country? How do I know what's the right place for me? Look, the bottom line is there are lots of factors you need to consider. It's best to be flexible. You're going to be asking yourself, hey, do I need to make and save extra money? Is there a particular language you want to learn? Maybe you're like Ian and Jesse, you're from the Midwest, you really want to live in a place where it's 85 degrees, 365 days a year.
Yep.
Says the guy who lives in Michigan. You know, there are going to be a lot of options. Consider as many as you can, be flexible, stretch, challenge your own boundaries, and in the end, you'll just have that many more options to pick from. So do your research, do your homework, talk to your advisor, and be flexible.
All right, so let's dive in. Let's start talking about some different parts of the world that you may be interested in teaching, starting with Europe, all right? We'll, in no particular order, some good job markets in Europe include Germany, Poland, Russia, the Czech Republic, Italy, Spain. And Jesse kind of touched on this earlier, but did you guys at home know locals in Czech Republic drink more beer per capita than any other country in the world? It's typically cheaper than water. That's especially true if you drink expensive water like Fiji or Smart Water. But yeah, love my time in Prague. Not a huge beer drinker, but definitely enjoyed a couple of crispy Pilsners here and there when I was there. And for those of you who are fans of the yellow beer, a lot of people don't know the original Budweiser was actually made in the Czech Republic as well, so you can get that there. But just a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful city in Prague. And Europe in general is a great place to teach. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
That's right. And from Spain to Russia, the demand for English language instruction is exploding across Europe. I saw a study recently that basically 25 years ago, roughly 30% of school students were learning English. That is now up to 75%. So demand is huge. The particulars, country by country, are going to vary. So matters like visas, hiring, you know, do you need a degree and so forth is really going to vary. So again, check out those country profiles and talk to your advisor. But definitely lots of opportunities, and Europe's great because it's easy to travel from one country to the next. So you can live in one country and then explore literally dozens of others while you're teaching it.
Yeah, and so interviews, how do you get a job there? Well, most interviews in Western Europe take place in country during specific hiring seasons and are face-to-face, okay? So some of you might be thinking, well, that sounds crazy. I gotta go to Europe to do a job interview. It's not. It's essentially a science at this point. It's a very straightforward and routine process. I've been doing this for about 9 years, and this is kind of just the way it's been since I've been here and since before I started, and most likely going to continue to be this way. But there are parts of Europe where you actually can get a job in advance if that's something that you really need to feel comfortable in doing this. You're probably going to need to look more on like Central and Eastern Europe. If you're going to focus someplace like Spain, Italy, you're probably going to be doing your interview once you arrive on the ground, okay? And as we mentioned earlier, visas, tourist visas are a really common way to work in Western European countries like Spain and Italy, but also student visas are becoming really popular as well. We have programs in both Barcelona and Madrid in Spain, if any of you are interested in working on your Spanish along with teaching English. And then there are countries in Europe where you can get work permits or residency visas, Germany, the Czech Republic, Russia, and most of Central and Eastern Europe.
All right, so certainly having a degree is going to help in many cases. That said, there are many countries that you can teach in Europe without a degree, especially with the TEFL certification. All different types of students in Europe, really varies, but I'd say certainly most opportunities are working with adults and business professionals, either in language schools or in a private tutoring type setting. There are public school opportunities, again, to teach in grade schools and high schools in places like France and Spain.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, there are very specific hiring seasons in Europe, and this is really important to understand. If you want to work in Europe, you need to be prepared to be there in mid-September through early October or in January. I really can't stress that enough. There are some places where you can get year-round jobs, very few though, typically Russia, Georgia, and the likes. But for the most part, that's when you need to be there. The summer months in Europe, schools close, people go on holiday, so not the best time to be there, even though the weather's probably the best. Contract lengths, depending on when you start, if you start in the fall, September, October, you're probably looking at around 10, 11-month contract. If you start in January, you might be looking at a shorter contract, maybe 6 or 7 months, because as I mentioned, a lot of schools close during the summer months in Europe, okay? So something to take in consideration. And then salary, break even. So what do we mean by break even? Break even means you go spend a year living in Italy, drinking a ton of wine, having amazing cuisine, having a wonderful experience, a lifetime worth of adventures, and you come home with the same amount of money that you left with. That's what breaking even means, okay? So there are very few places in Europe where you're gonna come out ahead with money in the bank. So if you're looking at teaching in Europe, you're really gonna go have an amazing experience and come home wealthy with that, okay?
All right, on to Latin America. Here we can see some top options for countries. You could easily add places like Ecuador to this list as well. Fun fact, did you know there are 2,484 miles of coastline in Chile? So if you like ceviche, long walks on the beach, that's a good place to go.
That's my favorite, John, by the way. If you like long walks on the beach, go to Chile. Right, Jesse. All right, so major hiring periods in Latin America going to be February, March, and then again in June and July, where Mexico and also Costa Rica offer year-round hiring. Right, so if your departure timeline doesn't fit into those hiring seasons, consider those locations. But like Europe, Latin America is an awesome place to go because of the travel opportunities. I mean, if you look at a map, if you're centrally located at a place, let's say like Nicaragua or Costa Rica, you have all of Central America easily accessible to you. If you're living in Peru or maybe Ecuador, you have a lot of really great locations as well. And so we definitely recommend it because it's also a part of the world where there's a really low cost of living. And so you can get started and situated there a lot easier. Because it doesn't take as much to get down there, right? And your dollars go a lot further.
That's right. And this is definitely one part of the world where hiring face-to-face locally is most common. That said, there are opportunities to line up a job in advance, especially in countries like Chile and Colombia, Mexico, and so forth. The work visa situation is really going to be varied. Some countries, they're going to provide you with a visa, sponsor a visa. In other countries, you're basically on a tourist visa that you're usually going to renew just by leaving the country every 90 days and coming back. It's a great way to see neighboring countries. So again, read up about these places, talk to your advisor, and you'll learn more about, the specifics on visas.
Yeah, and for those of you at home that do not have a four-year college degree, Latin America is one of the best places in the world to go work. Essentially, everywhere from Mexico south to Argentina is going to be available to you, okay? It is not going to be like a legal requirement in a lot of these places. And it's a pretty structured part of the world in terms of types of students. Most of your students are going to be adults because a lot of the jobs are in the private sector, meaning you're teaching those who are paying to take English classes, and more often than not, those are going to be adults. But that doesn't mean you can't work with kids. It just means most of the jobs are going to be working with adults.
That's right. Hiring seasons are going to vary, but I'd say in most instances, it's going to be sort of after Christmas and through the early spring, and then again in what we consider the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. Some places hiring year-round. A lot of English teachers work as independent contractors or private tutors, so that gives them more flexibility about when they start working and where and how long they stay in a particular location. Latin America is definitely a country where you're typically breaking even. Not going to get paid a ton in a place like Peru or Nicaragua, but these are countries where your monthly rent is usually going to be $100 or $200. So the fact that you're only making $700 or $800 a month, you can't really say to yourself, hey, that's nothing, because in those countries it'll cover all of your expenses. A lot of English teachers in these countries are also starting to make a lot of extra money teaching English online to students in places like China. So that's a way to boost your income when working in Latin America.
Absolutely. So speaking of China, let's talk a little bit about teaching English maybe in Asia. Some of the best job markets there: South Korea, China, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, Vietnam, Cambodia. I think you could maybe add Malaysia or Indonesia to that list as well. And did you know, this is just crazy to me, there are more students learning English in China than the entire population of the United States, right? Like, you could literally send every English teacher in the world to China and there still would be a shortage, right? And so it's definitely a place that you should put on your list if you're thinking about going to Asia, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's really hard to overstate how big the demand for English teachers is in Asia. These are huge countries. They have huge populations. They tend to be prosperous and fast growing economically. And these are countries where education is a very important part of the fabric of society. It's like a religion in most of these societies. So they invest heavily in education, especially English. These are countries that are very oriented towards trade and integrated with the international economy. They understand how important English is. So it's hard to overstate, again, how big the job market is. These are countries that offer fantastic travel opportunities, great cuisine, beautiful landscapes, really dynamic, happening, exotic cities. They tend to be very safe when it comes to matters like crime and personal security. So if you're looking to go somewhere where you can make and save money and have a great international experience, got to consider Asia.
Yeah, and there's some cool benefits of Asia too. Like, almost all of the employers in East Asia at least interview you in advance. That's going to take place, like we mentioned before, over the phone or via Skype. Some countries in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam and Thailand, some schools there may prefer to interview you face-to-face. It's not a guarantee that you'll get a job in advance everywhere in Asia, but for the most part, it's the most common way to interview. And it's also a part of the world where essentially every country you're going to get a work visa, okay? And that's going to be something that is sponsored by your employer, okay? So there's going to be some paperwork involved. It's probably not going to be the highlight of your trip, right? But it's just kind of a part of the whole process.
Yeah, and Asia is certainly one part of the world where degrees are required in many instances. That said, hey, if you don't have a degree, you're still probably going to have options in China or fantastic places like Cambodia. Most students in Asia are going to be young learners. That said, there are tens of millions of adults learning English, so lots of opportunity to work at business professionals and so forth. There are also opportunities to get airfare and accommodation provided by your employer. This is especially the case in countries like South Korea and China, though schools throughout the region do this in other countries as well.
All right, so let's talk about some details here. Hiring seasons. Another big benefit of Asia, pretty much year-round hiring. In China, outside of about a week in February during the Lunar New Year, you can pretty much get a job almost any day of the week. Thailand is probably the most specific, February through April, and then again August through October, which is quite a few months. That's like 5-6 months out of the year. And then Taiwan as well. So, but for the most part, pretty much almost any day of the year you can get a job in Asia. Most of the contracts there are going to be around 12 months. That's pretty typical because they also, compensate you really well, and there's additional incentives. You can find some 6-month contracts, but a year is pretty normal. And then, as I mentioned, compensation. You can do really well in Asia. The general rule of thumb is you can save about 50% of your monthly salary. So on the low end, you've got a couple $100 a month to be able to put into a savings account. On the high end, you've got $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month. So it's totally normal around here for us to get emails from our alumni and some of our colleagues that are like, yeah, I spent a year in South Korea and I saved about $10,000 or $12,000 or whatever it may be. And so if you have student loans or if you just kind of want to put away some money for travel, Asia's a great place to do that.
All right, let's get a quick rundown here on the Middle East, certainly one of my favorite parts of the world. Here are some top job markets. You could easily put on countries like, let's say, Tunisia on this list as well, maybe Oman. Did you know there are going to be some really tall buildings in Dubai? I think the Burj Al Khalifa is about 180 stories. So if you like tall buildings or indoor skiing or huge shopping malls, a place like Dubai might work for you.
Yeah, and so when we talk about the Middle East, this is kind of the general region that we discuss. We incorporate North Africa as well, from Morocco through Egypt, Jordan, and the such. And so it's a pretty great part of the world to work. There's going to be some pretty big variation, though, between working in like the Persian Gulf, like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, places like that, and working in parts of like North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, and the likes. And so we'll touch on that here briefly as well.
Yeah, so the Persian Gulf, for example, these oil-rich countries like the Emirates and Saudi Arabia, these are some of the most lucrative places in the world to teach, fantastic benefits and salaries, like Asia, in some cases even more. But they are small, so they tend to be more competitive. A place like Dubai has a lot of sex appeal, so a lot of people want to go and live there. So they tend to be more selective. These are certain countries where very often they do prefer to hire folks who have a little prior teaching experience or perhaps a degree in education. That said, if you don't have prior teaching experience, you can still find opportunities. You just need to be a little bit more flexible and persistent in your job search. These are places where you do interview in advance. You are going to get a visa, and contracts are typically 10 to 12 months renewable.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about both regions here. With the North African countries and Jordan and places like that, it's going to be a little bit more like Europe and Latin America, where a lot of the schools there are going to want to interview face-to-face. Visas are going to vary by country. Some places you'll get a work visa, some places you may work on a tourist visa. Contract lengths are going to be between 6 to 12 months. As John mentioned, you can do really well financially in the Gulf. In North African countries like Morocco, it's going to be a little bit more like Europe and Latin America as well, in terms of like going there, spending 6 to 12 months there, and essentially breaking even.
That's right. And there are a variety of different types of schools and students that you can work with. Hiring seasons are very often year-round. That said, the months typically leading up to end of August, beginning of September, when the school year begins, tend to be the best months. I'd say sort of spring and end of the early summer. These are really the best months to be applying for jobs in the Middle East.
Nice. So Jesse's going to put a link in the chat box for you right now. It's going to be to our country chart. And this is easily one of the most useful resources that we have on our website. Hold off on clicking that link and go ahead and check it out until after the webcast. We don't have much longer. But yeah, it's basically a great rundown of about 60 or so of the most popular teaching locations around the world. You're going to be able to compare what's it like working in Portugal compared to Brazil, compared to Indonesia, whatever it may be. And so really great resource to look at once we're done here. So now that you know more about where you can go, here's some more information about how we can assist you in making that whole adventure reality with our lifetime job search guidance provided to you by our wonderful Student Affairs Department. So in addition to your TEFL advisor, who we've already told you a million times tonight that you need to talk to, you're going to have someone within our Student Affairs Department that's going to walk you through your job search guidance process. We're going to help you develop your international resume, your cover letter. We're going to prep you for the interview process so you know exactly what types of questions you're going to be asked, the mannerisms you should display, the cultural nuances, but also things like what types of questions should you ask a school to make sure it's a good fit for you. What does a standard contract look like in that country so you know how much you should be getting paid and how much you should be working, what the visa laws are, what documents you need, where you need to go to get them, where you need to send them. We do wonderful things like offer live webinars like the one you're attending right now, specifically on different regions in the world, different trainings, different workshops. And then on top of all of that, we are going to provide you the actual contacts and resources you will need to get the job anywhere in the world. Now, it is a partnership in the sense that we're giving you these tools, we're showing you how to do all this amazing stuff, but it will be your responsibility to go out and utilize these things that we're providing for you. So if you want to go abroad, if you want to make it happen, we're here to help that whole dream become a reality. And as I mentioned, it's a lifetime service. So whether you want to go right away, go to multiple countries, or if you get certified and you wait 6 months or a year to go abroad, it's all the same to us. We're here to make this happen.
That's right. We also have a fantastic alumni association and alumni network that you can tap into basically as soon as you enrolled in your TEFL class. So we have exclusive Facebook countries for every country. and then different, other topics and themes like teaching English online or teaching English as a minority or, whatever it may be. We have a great ambassador program. So we have alumni in certain countries who provide advice and guidance to other new ITA students and graduates. They produce great content, all sorts of tips for living and day-to-day life in particular cities around the globe. We sponsor meetups all over the world as well. So we recently had our World Alumni Day in September. ITA grads in 30 cities worldwide got together for drinks, exchange stories, talk about their experiences on Facebook Live and so forth. And we have literally hundreds and hundreds of alumni interviews, articles, videos, Snapchat takeovers, you name it, we got it. So just a ton of information and resources for you to tap into. Again, basically as soon as you've enrolled in your TEFL class. All right, speaking of TEFL classes, it's important to note when you look online and you find all these different classes and programs and schools and so forth, not all TEFL classes are the same. And when you're looking to get a professional job as a professional teacher, you need to have a TEFL class that is accredited and meets certain standards. So you want to take a class that is at least 100 hours of coursework. That's equivalent to an intensive 4-week in-person class or the equivalent online. You want to take a class that incorporates practicum. Practicum is live practice teaching with actual ESL students. This is critical to provide you with experience and to help you gain confidence working in a live classroom environment. Of course, you want to take a class taught by professional, qualified, experienced instructors. So all of our instructors possess advanced degrees. They're all university level instructors. They all have experience living and teaching abroad in addition to teaching in a university type setting. And all of our classes are accredited by internationally known authorities, including regulatory bodies in the British government.
Right, and so whether you take one of our many in-person classes, we've got about 25 locations around the world, or our very popular online class, you're going to be receiving the same level of quality and service. It's merely just a matter of what best fits your schedule and your budget. Okay, so there's no consolation prizes here. No one location is better than the next. Online versus on-site. With International TEFL Academies, all roads lead to gainful employment with reputable employers abroad.
That's right. And, here's just a rundown of what you can expect from an in-person TEFL class. These are going to be 4-week, intensive, full-time, university-level classes. We cannot stress enough that these are really intensive classes. We always get a lot of feedback from our students. They're like, wow, this was really intensive, and I learned a ton. I had no idea how much I would learn taking this class. These classes are going to meet or exceed all the standards that we just discussed. Typically, tuition is going to range from about $1,500 up to about $2,000. Some classes in places like New York, where operating expenses are a bit higher, tuition is going to be a little bit higher. But typically, you're looking at $1,500 to $2,000, and that's not going to include ancillary expenses like housing, food, and transportation to your course location.
Right, and so our world headquarters is in Chicago, but we do have classrooms around the world. You can complete your TEFL certification. So if you have a destination in mind, just be sure to talk with your advisors because it's some really cool places to do this. So let's talk a little bit about our online class. This is easily the most popular class we offer. About 80% of our graduates take the course online. It works out to be about 4,000 students a year. And it's just like pretty much like a normal university course. And what I mean by that is it's a course that's taught by a university level professor. The class is 11 weeks long, so it's structured 11 weeks. And there are 20 students per course section. So it would be yourself and 19 others in the class. And just like every other college class offered, you have weekly assignments, you have reading and quizzes, you have a mid-course evaluation, you have a final project, okay? But the big difference, though, is that it's structured in a way that allows you to continue to work a full-time job or go to school full-time. The average time dedicated to the class per week by our students is around 10 to maybe 12 hours per week. And so you can easily kind of cater this around your own personal schedule. So if you want to get the certification done while you're still kind of living at home right now doing your thing, getting ready for your move, the online class is a great way to do it. And just like all of our other courses, it's fully accredited. It includes live practicum teaching. We actually have a 20-hour practicum requirement for our online class, so you're going to get that firsthand experience while you're taking your class. There's also other supplemental live components like videos, live webcasts, things like that. And the tuition's a little bit less than what you're going to pay for our in-person classes. Standard tuition is $13.95. So yeah, it's a great option for those of you who need to continue to work, continue to go to school while doing the certification. And that way, when you go abroad, you touch down, you're ready to go to work right away. And so the practicum component is easily one of the most common questions we get. This is something that you're going to do within your own community, wherever you are right now. I mean, we shouted most of you out earlier in the beginning of the webcast, but local community centers, local public libraries, faith-based organizations, maybe someplace on campus, really anywhere that there are non-native English speakers looking to learn ESL, you'll simply need to volunteer for 20 hours. Now, we're going to give you some guidance. We're going to give you some resources on how to go about setting these hours up, but it will be your responsibility to do that because it's your own schedule and you can kind of cater it around. Now, you have the full duration of the 11-week long course plus an additional 60 days following your course. So you basically have about 5 months or so to complete 20 hours of volunteer work.
That's right. And it's really up to you to discuss matters with your advisor. Take your own circumstances and preferences into account when deciding which TEFL class is best for you. We find that the online class is the most popular option. It's the most cost-effective option. You're typically going to save $500 to $700 on tuition alone compared to on-site classes, not to mention other expenses like travel and food and accommodations if you're going to another city or country to take your class. Also, it really provides the most flexibility. This is a class that is designed to accommodate people who are working or going to school. Now, it is a real commitment, but it is designed to accommodate you if you're working or going to school so you can continue to generate income, or if you want to wrap up your TEFL certification before graduating from school, the online class is a great way to do it. Also, it really provides the most flexibility when it comes to your job search. You begin receiving job placement assistance and access to resources as soon as you begin your class. You can work on that while you're getting certified. And you have the option to apply and interview for positions literally all over the world. That really, gives you a chance to, pursue opportunities in a place like Korea or Taiwan. At the same time, you can be looking at jobs in Russia or maybe Turkey or maybe, someplace like Poland. So a lot of people like that combination of less cost, more flexibility, and the ability to get their certification while they're working or going to school. Again, talk to your advisor, go over your options, and you'll certainly be able to come up with, the best fit for yourself.
All right, so John, tell them about their next steps.
Key, again, as we say, again and again and again, talk to your advisor. This is, they're there to help you with all your questions on the phone, by email, Skype, text, however you want to communicate, they're available. These people are experts themselves. They're highly trained. They've all taught English abroad. They know what it entails. Important to give yourself a timeline. Give yourself at least 3 to 6 months, in some cases more. That means, hey, if you want to be teaching English abroad in 2018, whether it be in the spring or in the summer or even next fall, now is the time to put together a timeline, get enrolled in your TEFL class, get the process going, and before you know it, you'll be overseas. The moral of the story is planning and research. So, and that means looking at the website, talking to your advisor, putting together a timeline, and getting into your TEFL class. Go teach and see the world and send us a postcard.
Yeah, I mean, 2018 is literally weeks away. For most of us, I feel like I just started getting used to saying 2017 and writing 2017 instead of 2016. So a year goes by like that. It can be over in an instant, right? And so like, if you want to be abroad in 2018, time to talk now. Like literally, we're going to hang up from this webcast tomorrow morning, first thing, call your advisor, start talking about this, because if you start planning now, you're looking at earliest maybe the spring, okay? So don't wait, take life by the reins and go for it. And for those of you who attended this evening, is our way of showing appreciation for you guys spending an hour with us. We're going to give you a $50 off coupon that is good for any online class. We've got, I think, one more in 2018, and then, or I'm sorry, 2017, and then all of our 2018 dates. And then it's also applicable for our Chicago course, or Nicaragua, Barcelona, and Costa Rica courses if you enroll by the end of December. So yeah, that's going to show up in an email coming here pretty shortly. And to wrap things up, last but not least, for those of you who tuned in early and heard about our contest, Jesse, tell the people about the contest and if you have a winner there.
Ooh, all right. I do have a winner. I would love a drum roll if you've got one. Ian, usually I've done perfect. I have Brooke Novak. Awesome. Congrats. I will email you over. Yes, Brooke. I think we were chatting a little bit in the questions too. So I will email you over your coupon and then also let your advisor know that you have the coupon as well. So congrats on that. And also everybody else will get your $50 coupon, so no worries there. Yeah, do we have some time for some questions? I know we're a little bit over. We've got a million questions that have been showing up during this hour.
Yeah, if you want to maybe like summarize a couple of them, John and I'm happy to take one. John, if you've got time. John is taking his entire family to Italy tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. So not only is he a wonderful dad, but he's also going to stay after and answer some questions here. But yeah, go ahead and fire away, Jesse.
Cool. So we got a lot of questions at the end here about the online class versus in-person classes. Ian, would you mind maybe talking about, is the online class viewed as an equal to the in-person class? Is one better or worse or more recognized or less recognized, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a really common question because, as we mentioned earlier in the webcast, not all TEFL classes are created equal, right? And so a lot of people, when they're doing the research, they say, hey, like, I've seen maybe some employers post they don't want online classes or anything like that. And the reality is, while there is some truth to that, that is not true when it comes to International TEFL Academy courses. And that's because of the way we administer our classes. All of our courses are fully accredited. All of our courses include the live practicum component, which is really, really important. Also, all of our courses are taught by real live professional TEFL instructors. Most of them have master's or PhD in the field, and so you're getting a great education. So with us, it doesn't matter what class you take. We have courses in 25 cities around the world. If you want to take an in-person class, fantastic, they're great. But if you end up taking our online class, don't think of it like a consolation prize, because it's the same certification, you're getting the same job search guidance, you're going to end up getting the exact same job on the back end. It's really just a matter of personal preference. And if we felt differently about that, we would just tell you to take an in-person class, right? But because of our courses kind of having that higher level and having that higher standard, it's really going to come down to personal preference. Like me personally, I did my course online. Some of my colleagues did courses online, but also some of our colleagues took their courses in person as well, right? And so we really, at the end of the day, we don't offer things that don't get you jobs, right? We don't say, well, if you want to work in this part of the world, you got to take this class over this class. That's not the case. All of our courses are going to end up getting you there. And so when you're putting together a game plan with your advisor, just know that whatever course you decide to take, that's going to get you the job that you want abroad.
Awesome. Woo. Thanks. Let's see what we got. We had a ton of questions. I know you guys kind of touched on this at the end, but John, if you don't mind, we had a lot of people that were saying maybe, hey, I graduate in 2019, or I can't, for whatever reason, can't go abroad right now. Is there any harm in just getting the class done now? Should you try and time it up closer to when you're leaving? Can you kind of touch on that timing and where this certification fits in the mix?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. I think the answer is the sooner the better, regardless of when you're looking to go abroad. And there's several reasons for this. One, when you invest the time and money to take your TEFL class, you're really committing yourself to going abroad and doing this. And it's not just going to become another great idea that never happens. So, when you take that first step and get certified, hey, you're just that much more likely to actually go abroad and do this. Another point is your certification never expires. So once you have it, you have it. It's like your college degree, it never goes away. A third point is, and this is sort of twofold. One, you can use your certification to teach English online from home. This is something you can do part-time. It's a great way to get extra experience. It's a great way to make money for your startup costs when you actually do go abroad. So, you know, you can start making money by teaching English online virtually right away. Also, you can teach and volunteer in your community, give private lessons, you can volunteer, and this is experience that you can put on your resume. Even if you volunteer just once a month or whatever it is, that's something you can put on your resume to enhance your opportunities once you actually do begin applying for jobs. And the other aspect is, hey, as soon as you get into your class and start taking your class, you're able to access all of the job search resources, all of the alumni resources. You're able to connect with alumni and students all over the world. You're able to connect and work with our job search guidance advisors. And that just gives you that much more time to get all your ducks in a row so that when you are ready to go overseas, hey, you got your certification, you got everything lined up for your job search in terms of documents and so on. You have a game plan in place. So really, there's no reason to put it off. And I would say, you know, do it now and get it over with. And you'll be ready to go in 2019 or whatever it is that you're ready to go out and see the world and have this fantastic experience.
Excellent. Well,
Cool.
thank you, John. Thank you, Jesse. I always feel like I learn so much every time we do this webcast together, guys. And thank you, everyone at home, for tuning in tonight. That's going to be it for us here at International TEFL Academy. If you haven't heard it enough already, talk with your advisor. That's what we're here for. Help you put together a game plan to see the world. And so for those of you in the Midwest like me, stay warm. For those of you in Southern California like Jesse, have a good night, I guess, doing whatever you do out there. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Take
See you
care,
guys.
everyone.